be. I hope we're all doing really well. As promised, I would be back if anything did break or does break. And lo and behold, obviously, since we went live, Scott Bramall, I think it was, um, kind of brought into the show about Lammens to United. Looks like that's sort of gonna be done. So as of now today, breaking news, and we can talk about this for a little bit on here, is that United are now in for the men's properly. We are in for this player. We are looking at this deal. I think we're going to get this deal done. Now, what I've been saying for a long time on this is that Lammens, and we've been consistent. If you watch the channel enough, you will know that Lammens on here has been the one that we've spoken about, or we've wanted. We have been consistent on this. Now, there has been times over the last couple of days, weeks, where I've been a little bit up and down in it, purely because of the things I've read and kind of what's been going on with the goalkeeper situation. A couple of people today have been in and talking about it today. Do we think Anan is going to start against Fulham? What will that tell us on the weekend? Let's just come from Fabrizio. That United are in for Lammens again. So 24 years old. I think he's 24 years old, 23, 24 years old. Royal Antwerp. He's literally only just turned 23, 24. And if you actually go and look at his stats, I think it's on FB Ref. His actual stats are very, very, very good. So what we've all been clamoring for a little while is a new goalkeeper. So breaking news, if you have just joined, Fabrizio, we're not talking about, for example, with me, I've spoken about Ross Harwood quite a bit, or we're not talking about an indicator here. We are talking about Fabrizio basically coming on and saying that we are breaking news, that we are in for Lammens. Now, I don't think that people should sleep on this one. I think this will be a very transformative change for us. There's no price being quoted, so I think previously the price was in and around 17 million to 20 million pounds for this goalkeeper. I do think this keeper will be transformative in terms of, I think he's very much of a kind of that shot stopper, quite a big frame. He reminds me in terms of stature of, I'm trying to think of the old Stoke keeper, not Begovic, I think. Kind of, maybe not in the way that he plays, but certainly in his stature. He seems like quite a big, wide keeper. 23, 24 years old. I think this will be one of those deals that I'll give credit for Ineos for doing. We're talking about a keeper playing in the Belgian league that potentially that we've scouted. It wouldn't have been a name on my list of plays to do, or a list of plays to get. So for me, Lammens, and again, I'll give this up to the chat. There's so many people on here. We've been talking about Lammens for such a long time. Now, I was always of the opinion that I thought we were going to get him. Last couple of shows, I won't be a hypocrite and just say that I thought that we may not go for a keeper, and I was never convinced and never quite understood why Lammens was there at that price. And I never really understood why you wouldn't go for a keeper who's really well thought of. Europe wise, there are a lot of clubs scouting him. Now, there has been talk. So Joe says, I'm glad we're getting Lammens. Yeah, exactly, Joe. You're one of the ones that we've spoken about this, and you've been here for quite some time. We've been on this now for quite some time. I did not expect this one to happen until next year. Exactly, Joe. I think what we've said on here, and again, I'll give it up to the chat. If you sort of have just joined the chat, don't forget to favorite and subscribe. Get into the chat. Obviously, be respectful, or you will be blocked. I don't like to do it, but recently, for the channel's integrity and for the future of the channel, we'll kind of have to do that. So just kind of be respectful. I don't mind banter, but just get into the chat with your opinions. I always thought that we needed a goalkeeper. And when you get a Lammens, who's, if you look at his stats, and I'm not going to be a hypocrite again on this one, stats can lie. Onana's stats, you look at his stats, they are really, really, really good. But if you check this keeper out, he does look like one for the future. And what I'm really hoping with this one in particular is that and we need to be logical with this one as well. And I'll give you a, not a negative opinion, but I'll give you what I think about it and why we kind of will need to. The problem with this kit, in fact, sorry, I'll talk about it now. One of the problems that we need to acknowledge is that whether or not we like Onana in goal, he's been in goal for 2 years now, 3 years now, 2 years time, right? Now the problem with that is that as much as the back four are nervous with him in, at least they sort of know roughly sort of how he plays and who he is. So it's almost a bit like in your family, if you've got an idiot in your family, and I'm not calling Onana an idiot, it's almost a bit like in your family, if you've got an idiot and no one else likes them outside of your family, they're your idiot and you've got to deal with them and you know how to deal with them and you know their flaws and and whatever else, but they're yours. And that's what I feel is a bit like with this. And the problem with that is that Lammens is going to come in. He's not a well-known, necessarily respected keeper. He's not, like a World Cup winner. He doesn't have necessarily the aura at the moment. So what he's going to have to do is, if he's going to be the number one, he's going to have to come in and he's going to have to hit the ground running. He's going to have to instill confidence in this back four, back five straight away. So this is one thing we need to consider, is that will Lammens come in straight away as number one? I'm not sure. Is he capable of being a number one? Yes. But we still need to bear in mind that he may take time to settle because he's going to be a new goalkeeper. We've started off season. This back three, back four have to have confidence in him. Every keeper that we've had, pretty much outside of Schmeichel, really, other than Van der Sar, came into this club and there were teething problems. It took a season to bed into this side. Lammens could come into this side and make a mistake. Then are we going to be on his back? So I think we need to acknowledge in this fan base that if we go for Lammens, he needs a little bit of time. Rafat Alam says hi, my friend. If you have just joined, don't forget to like, favorite and subscribe. Of course, it really does help the channel out. I'm telling you guys, this is the best chat. Lammens, you've got so many people on here who've been talking about Lammens now for quite some time. We've been talking about him. Still think there is a chance of going for a midfielder late in the window. If we sell Garnacho and Anthony, can only see a loan for Haaland. New crowd legend of the chat, my friend, as well. Rafat, your country? I'm in the UK. I'm based in Essex, if you know where that is, my friend. Midfielder wise, Neil, we need a midfielder. I don't disagree with you on that one. I do think there's a chance. If we go to Fulham and we lose the midfield battle, I think there is chance. But I think the longer the window goes on, we've got 9-10 days left to either get a Humland in, a Steeler in. Now, Scott came on here and said early doors about Lammens. I'll give him a shout out for that one. Kind of Fabrizio started to talk about that whilst we were talking about different things, and he did say Steeler was not coming out. I've not seen anything from Fabrizio, unless it's on Fabrizio's podcast. I've not seen anything to confirm that Steeler's not coming. So I'll still hold that opinion that I think that we may still be talking and still thinking about that one. But I do think as of now, unless Garnacho and Anthony go, I don't think we get a midfielder in. I think those Anthony for me is he's behaving abominably. I dislike him now, and Haaland is only a loan deal. I think the problem with Haaland right now is that we need to do a deal with Napoli. That's an obligation to buy. So I think you're right on that front. I think the midfielder one, you could be right, but the midfielder for me, I was confident that we're going to go get a midfielder. I don't mind midfielder, but I don't. I can't see it now, but as you say, I'm not going to rule out a a move for one later on in the window. Still, it isn't the right fit. However, his passing quality isn't something you turn down. Is that exactly, Neil? I think when we're talking and what should I say? Right fit with Bruno exactly. Straw Turkey, welcome, my friend. You can, yeah, really, really good country. I've been there quite a few times. I think, Neil. I think if I was looking at a profile of a midfielder, I would go with more one who's defensive, right? So Steeler for me is a bit more like a cruise type. But one of the things that I have learnt, and I have had a couple of sporting fans actually um, send me some emails and stuff, and we've had a little bit sort of a chat about how Amrin plays his CMs. Now, CMs are for him. He doesn't necessarily care about that traditional sort of 8 and 6. That more of a defensive CM, and that more of an attacking CM. What you actually want is he wants an engine. So what he wants is and I've said this now a few times. He almost wants those. Remember back in the day, we had like a winger who would run up and down that pitch. So you'd have a winger that would run up and down that flank and cross the ball into the box. What he wants is almost think of the center of the midfield area as like a channel. And what he wants is he wants two CMs that run up and down that. So what he wants is he almost wants a box to box, right? But he also wants that when the defensive duties kick in, that they run back. So you've almost got a position whereby, say for example, Bruno's the one who can run back and help the back three, because Euro likes to come up and they defend high. So what he wants is he's not necessarily bothered about that sort of defensive kind of capability in terms of are they an out and out defensive CM or an out and out attack. What he wants is the ability for them to get back and actually just get involved in that, but so he wants a sort of all-round athlete engine in that centre midfield. So that's the question I would really throw at Steeler is, I've not seen enough of him play. Is he the right fit in terms of can he get up and down that pitch? Is his engine good enough? And that's probably more the question for me, whether that's probably more important right now than whether he's a sort of believer type. Now, believer for me has it all, but that's why he's so keen on him, was basically because he wants that engine up and down that pitch. So I think when we're thinking about midfielders, I mean, my opinion on it in terms of an Amarin system has slightly shifted on the fact that he doesn't necessarily want a CM, defensive CM. He just wants an engine up and down. So Stiller, I think you're right. Agume for me would be the one. He would be the one that I'd go for. Agume, I think, is I still want that more defensive CM for me, but I think we just need a quality CM in there with an engine that can get up and down that pitch. And as we've seen, Casemiro isn't it? Ugarte isn't it? Mainu could be it. So let's see what happens there. Was I right, Scott? So Scott, yeah. So one of the things I did with Lammens, spot on, my friend. I haven't seen anything with Steeler yet. I haven't seen anything. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I've not seen anything on Fabrizio. Maybe it was on his podcast. Maybe I've missed a post, but I haven't seen anything right now that rules out Steeler. I've not seen anything on other channels just yet that's ruling out that. Obviously, it's not Pletigo. Oh, okay, sorry, that's on me. Pletigo for me, he's a bit hit and miss, and I think with Pletigo, and I've quoted him as well. So he was good in the Shesko stuff, but he was okay in the Shesko stuff, to be fair. But Pletigo for me he is a tier top one, So when he says stuff, but I still take it with a pinch of salt. For me, for now, I think it's a decent source, and I don't think he's necessarily wrong. But unless Fabrizio sort of comes out, Romano comes out, but I will check him out as well. I do think though, Scott, I do think logically, and what I'll always do, right, is when you come to the channel sort of more, I'll always give you my opinion from a logical perspective based on what's out there. So based on, what I think, age of player, etc. I think Steeler would be a very, very difficult deal to do right now. I think Pletigo is probably right. Stuttgart for me, Astura, I'm going to have to put you on a timeout, my friend. Um, sorry, my friend, because you can't keep spamming us, my friend. So you're going on a timeout. So the reason why I think I would probably go with Pletigo in this circumstances, I think it'd be a difficult deal to do. There's a release clause of 36.5 or 30 million pounds, which is there to be done. But Stuttgart can buy that out for 2 million. And the moment they know that we are interested in this deal, they will go and buy that out, put his price up to 50, and that's done and dusted. And do I think he's worth 50 million? I don't know. The jury's out on that one for me. Agume, if Agume's available for me at 30 million, 35 million, that's probably the deal that I'd do. I think for me, I'd like to go for a more defensive minded. Now, when we're looking at, have we got the money there to do 50 million? I don't know, because there are conflicting reports saying we need to sell to buy. We don't need to sell to buy. We've got this credit facility in place. So logically thinking about it, with I guess the age of the player, I know he's a youngish player. Will Ineos see this as a good business deal? Maybe at 30 million, yes, but maybe at 50, they won't. Stuttgart, I'm not silly. You think about Bundesliga players this season have been going for 100 plus million. You look at Wirtz, they might point to the Wirtz deal as well and go like, he went for 100 something million. They may argue that Steeler maybe is that sort of player, and maybe they'll go, we want 60 million for him. So I think Pletigo on this is probably right. I still think that we're in for him. I still think we're holding talks, but I think ultimately, I think Pletigo will probably be proved right. He is tier one in the Bundesliga, so I think he's definitely got some knowledge of this one. And I just think that with the time involved, with the money that we've probably got left to spend, with what it is we're trying to do, I think Steeler will be it will be quite an expensive deal to do, and maybe a difficult one to do as well. So I think Scott, I think you're right on that. Thank you for bringing it into the chat. I did shout you out as well at the beginning of the show. So I think yeah, I'm gonna start calling you Agent Scott, by the way. So yeah, so I think Pletigo is right on that logically, and as I said, I'll always talk you through what I think on it. I think that Neil again could be right on this one. I think maybe we're looking at deals to do, but I don't know how well we can get this done. Neil says that Elliot Anderson is someone. Yeah, I like that player as well. It's also has a Belieber profile. Personally, I feel Camavinga. Yeah, I've seen this Camavinga link today just before, and that's a good segue actually into what I also wanted to say as well on this one. It's been linked to Camavinga for £63 million. Not for me. Not for me. I think with Camavinga, we should have got him before we went to Madrid. I think Camavinga will be another Casemiro. And when I say that, he's had a lot of injuries as well. When Madrid are happy to let these sorts of players go, it's a big no from me. Do we get sucked in by the razzmatazz of these players? Camavinga, there's no doubt that he's a good player. He's not for me. I want to get Camavinga before he goes to Madrid. I want to get Camavinga before he goes to these sorts of teams. So for me, a Camavinga is no, not at that price, and not with what Real Madrid have done to us in the past. That's a big no from me. E19, Ronaldo is making a third return. Just heard it in the news. No, he's not. E19, I don't know where you get your news from, my friend. He ain't coming back. No way. So you could be right, but I don't think you are. A new goalkeeper, exactly. Dominic Ingewa. The defence is not that bad. I think all we need is a holding midfielder and a keeper. Again, I think that's what we all want. I do think, and you heard it here, we need to shift our mindset about the midfield. We don't need a defensive midfielder. We need an energetic midfielder that can run up and down that pitch. Maybe you could argue it's more defensive, but we need to get rid of our our defensive midfielder mindset and offensive midfielder mindset, because he wants Fernandes to do both as well. So we need to think about what are the attributes in terms of physicality of what these players can do. So what we want is a maybe more of a defensive minded, but we certainly want a up and down sort of midfielder. Paul says hi my friend. CR or Messi? Now I'm gonna, for me, Cristiano. I'm never going to say not, but for me, when you're looking at Cristiano or Messi, you got to think about these two things, right? Cristiano he absolutely epitomizes um, professionalism, epitomizes what you can do with the talent that you've got and the work ethic that you've got. If you work very, very hard and you sacrifice, have a non-stop mentality for winning and doing the best, that's him. You know, not obviously he has to have a gift, but not naturally gifted in terms of Messi. But when you have the work, people underestimate how difficult, how hard this guy's worked. There's no coincidence that Cristiano has lasted as long as he has until he's 40 and he's an athlete, and that's through sheer hard work, everything that he's done. But Messi's a gift. Like, doesn't mean to say that Messi doesn't work hard. Doesn't mean to say that Messi doesn't work as hard as Cristiano, because you don't last as long as he has. But Messi is just a gift. You know, Messi's one of those players like Ronaldinho, who's just a gift, right? They're an absolute gift, and you know they whatever they're doing, you know, they even if he didn't train, he'd still probably be the best player on the pitch. So Cristiano for me epitomizes hard work, epitomizes what you can do if you sacrifice for something that you love. And Messi is basically just a gift. And you know, and I think they're two different players. And I think we were very lucky to see them in this era. So if you have just broken, it's just a quick one just to give you an update, as I'll always say in this. Sonny Lammens, breaking news that United are going in on this keeper. We've been saying on here for quite some time that we are going to go for this keeper. We've kind of maintained that, and I do think that that we'll get him. Last couple of chats. Steve Rick says hi. Do you think Shesko will play against Grimsby? I hope so. I think that'll be awesome. And he definitely needs to get involved. Martin said, I think Cristiano came back to United. They met his wage demands as much as he did well on score goals. But you heard this first interview with Wes Brown. He was when you heard this interview with Wes Brown, yeah. Cristiano will. I don't think will come back to this club. If he does come back, it'll be as an ambassador. I don't want him to come back. We need to move on. He's done. He's dusted. You know, he's always going to be a legend of this club. But yeah, Monface saying he wanted to win titles. That was unlikely. CR7, yeah, 100%. Got him in my dream team, so he needs a few goals for me. People shouldn't sleep on Sesko. So just before I go, guys, thank you to the chat. As always, absolute legends. Lammens, breaking news. Keep an eye on this one. I am now in Lammens camp. I think we're going to get this deal done. Apparently City were looking at him as well. I don't know why, but I think they were. Reports in Turkey as well say Anthony for 45 million. He wants Betis. Scott, spot on. He's turning everything down because that's where he wants to go. Hopefully he'll be forced out of the club and move, but let's see how that comes on. So again, Scott, Agent Scott, you're right on that one, my friend. I've seen that one doing the rounds as well. So Sonny Lammens, I think for me, 24 years old, 17-20 million. So I'm expecting a sort of deal to get done really, really quickly. Maybe we get like a here we go in the next 2 days, but I am logically makes sense. So Lammens, breaking news, Lammens, we're going in for him. And I think we're going to get him. They must have been listening to me last night by saying the goalkeeper was priority. You can't compete. Exactly, my friend. I'm seriously thinking that they watch this chat, because all the players that will be mentioned on here Monday for the deal, I predict, Scott, mate, I hope so, buddy. I really, really hope so, because so far, you know, you are being spot on, my buddy. So yeah, so if anything else does break, I'll jump back on again. As promised, keep an eye on Scott in the chat because he's now Agent Scott. Thank you all for being in the chat. I will jump back on. Feel free to join me tonight, and we can discuss all this again. So have a good rest of your day. Let me know if anything else breaks, guys, in the comments, chat, whatever, and I'll see you very, very soon. Take care.